Hi, I'm Dan Schmitt. I do a weekly television show called Team Chicago Challenge. My website is teamchicago.tv, teamchicago.tv. We're at the Donald Stevens Convention Center, Rosemont, Illinois, for the muscle car Corvette Nationals. It's a great car show. We're going to talk about some of the Corvette Stingrays. Just in the next 10 or 12 minutes, I'm going to give you the highlights of this show. Talk to some of the guys from the Chicago Gearheads. We'll look at some interesting cars right here in Rosemont, Illinois. In 2014, when I was here, I looked at the Corvettes from 1953 all the way through 1962. Now we're going to look at the Corvette Stingrays. That was from 1963 to 1967. And we're going to have some expert help explaining the difference between the different Corvettes. Great looking cars. Here's a Pontiac Ventura. Great car from the early 1960s. We'll be back to look at this car again and some other stunning cars. Not many custom cars were at this show, but we did get to see this beautiful 1949 or 1950 Mercury, a real great looking custom car. And I talked to a good number of the members of the Chicago Gearheads. So we're going to start with Bill Lynch, who is the secretary of the club.
I'm Bill Lynch from the Chicago Gearheads Car Club. I'm out here in Rosemont at the convention center. They're doing the Muscle Car and Corvette National show. So there'll be cars here from all over the country. So real nice show. All makes are here, real good show. And I got my 58 Chevy Delray here. It actually was a special ordered car by the government. This car is actually a sedan delivery. It codes out as a sedan delivery, but a sedan delivery typically would have had hard metal panels on the sides instead of back windows. This car has glass like a station wagon. The model is a Delray, which was not available in a station wagon. So this car is one seat, just a front seat. The rear is a flat deck because it was a utility vehicle. It was used in Yellowstone Park. Has a National Park Service tag on the firewall. So the story is there's probably about 400 of these things built. So it's a rare car. I updated it a bit. I tried to keep it pretty much stock looking, but I added some creature comforts like air conditioning and power windows, power steering, power disc brakes. And I put a motor in that you could have gotten with it, but this car had a straight six. I ended up putting a 348 in it with 3x2 carburation, and just kind of updated it, but it looks pretty factory for the most part.
Thank you, Bill. And now we're going to talk to another member of the Chicago Gearheads, Tom Traficanti, and we're going to talk about Corvette Stingrays. The Stingrays were built from 1963 to 1967, and we're going to discuss the changes from year to year on the Corvette Stingray.
Hi, I'm Tom Traficanti. I'm the treasurer of Chicago Gearheads Car Club. This is my 66 Corvette convertible. It's L79 motor, 327, 350 horse. This was the largest small block for 66. They had a 300 horse and a 350 horse. And then you went into the 427 from there. They had a 390 and a 4 1/4 horse. This car earned an NCRS second flight award, and then it was treated to a $50,000 frame-on restoration, and it would probably do a top flight in a chapter meet today. So it is correct.
So this is a 100% correct car that you have rebuilt over the, how many years have you owned this car?
I've owned this 1 year. It was basically done when I bought it. I just restored the hubcaps and the wheels. It came with 67 rally wheels, and I purchased the Goldline radial tires for it to give it the correct appearance.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you about this model, which is the Stingray, which came out in '63, and can you tell me the difference between a 63, 64, 64, 65? What did they change year to year that you can...
Sure. Let's go to the hood. 63 63 had indentures here with a stainless plate on each side, and that was 63 only. And the coupe is a traditional, everybody knows.
The split window for the coupe, right.
Split window coupe. And 63 and 64 were all drum brake cars. Big difference in 64, well, it's a small difference. They removed the grills, and it was just the indentured grill panel.
Okay.
And they removed the split window, the split in the coupe.
Disappeared in 64.
64.
Right.
And in 65, it went to four-wheel disc brakes. It was a flat hood like this, and the same grill vents on the fender. And the motors were basically all the same. They had a 365 horse motor.
327?
365 horse. Same motors as L79.
Did they have 350 cubic inches by then, or?
No, they're all 327s.
327s, okay.
Yeah.
Did they ever offer a six-cylinder in any of these?
Just the early cars.
Just the early. None of the
54.
Stingrays are there.
No.
Okay. So they always, but they didn't have the 283 anymore by 63.
No. Mid-year 55, they went to V8.
Right, right. But they didn't. 283s were never available in Corvette.
62, they went with the 327.
Okay. All right. So that became standard, and the big block.
Yeah.
They never had a 409 in one of these.
No, too heavy.
But they went to the 396 then.
Yeah, then 427.
Oh, the 427.
And 65 was the first year and only year for the 396.
Okay.
And it came out about mid-year, and it replaced the 375 horse fueling.
Right, fuel injection, right,
Yeah.
right. Now, did they ever have fuel injection with any of the big block engines?
No.
No.
So 63 through mid-year 65, the fuel injection was an option.
Okay.
375 horse.
Right, right.
327.
With the small block engine.
Right.
Right, right. And what about transmissions? What transmissions were available in these?
These are all Muncies.
Four
M20
speed?
wide ratio, close ratio. M21 close ratio. You also had the rack crusher, the M22.
And did they come with the power glide? Was it the automatic
Yeah,
they
that was
offered?
the automatic trans up until 68 when they introduced the Turbo 400.
Right, right. Okay,
So through
okay.
67.
Okay.
Yeah.
So suspension, did that ever change over the?
No, it was all the same.
All the same
63.
suspension. But in 65 is when they went to disc brakes all the
Disc
way
brakes
around.
all the way around.
So 64 prior, no disc brakes.
63 and 4 drum brakes.
Right. And how were them early disc brakes on these things?
Oh, they're good. This is a manual disc brake car, and it stops. You know, four-wheel disc brakes work really well.
Right, right, right. Okay. All right, so 66, 67, what was there between the 66 and 67 then?
Well, they changed the gills
On the side here?
on the side.
Right.
The 67 has like 5, 6 of them, you know, going a little closer together, a little smaller.
Oh, okay,
opening.
okay.
And the backup light is in the center. They moved the backup light from the tail lights into this panel right here for 67 only.
Only, okay.
And that's the major thing.
Okay, now tell me, give me a little rundown in 68, even though we're not going to go any further. How much different was that car than this car? Was it a complete new car?
The chassis was the same, but the body was all.
The chassis was the same,
Yes.
just the whole body was different.
Yeah, 68 was the last year for the 327. And in 69, they went to the 350 motor.
Okay, okay.
And the big motor was the 427 in both of those years, 68 and 69. In 70 through 74, I'm not sure about 75, they went ahead and 454 available.
Right, right, right.
In different horsepower ratings.
And how long did that body stay? That
Well, that
sloopy?
basically went from 68. They tweaked it a little bit. It went all the way through 82.
Right, right. So that was probably the longest?
Yeah, that was the longest body.
Right, right. That they ran,
And basically, it was the same suspension.
right, as this car here?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's only the newer Corvettes is when
Yeah.
they really get to
They
great
changed the
suspension.
suspensions,
Right,
yeah.
right,
Changed the frame. They changed the whole car.
right.
Thank you, Tom. And now we're looking at a section called the Barn Finds, barnfinds.org. This is a 1970 Superbird, Dodge Superbird with a 440 engine, only 3,648 miles on this car. And Mr. Barn Finds is Ryan Brutt.
Hi, my name's Ryan Brudd. I'm considered the auto archaeologist. I write for Hot Rod Magazine, Muscle Car Review, and a few others about my travels driving around looking for barn finds. A few years ago, Bob Ashton asked me to help assemble and put together the barn finds display at Muscle Car Corvette Nationals. And every year since, it's nothing but grown and become far more successful than originally intended. Started with one car, and now we're the biggest section of the show. It's so big and so phenomenal that it gets its own issue of Muscle Car Review all to itself. The craziest car I found was actually the first, was a 1971 383 Cuda. It was sitting in an old repair shop in Illinois, in Chicago, at 16, and that just really got me going. It was a black car, 383 shaker. The most expensive, the actual craziest one I've ever found was a 1969 Dodge Charger 500, which was the predecessor to the Daytona. Had an aero rear window and a flush front grille. But the craziest thing was it was a Hemi car with a 4-speed, one of 3 made, and I think the most recent one went for $500,000. And it's sitting in a tractor shed. And it's not a barn, it's a tractor shed because it's open sides, sinking into the mud so far that's up to the first lug nuts on the front wheels.
Thank you, Ryan. As we look at this 1966 Chevelle Super Sport, 1972 Buick GS 350. We're going to talk to a couple more club members of the Chicago Gearhead, Brian Springy and Jim Burns, and they're going to tell us about these two great cars.
Hi, my name is Brian Springy. I'm going to tell you about my 1966 Chevelle Super Sport. I bought the car in 1993. I've pretty much restored the whole car. Started out with, they had a real tricked out 70s paint job with some stripes and all kinds of paint all over it. It's an original SS 396 4-speed car. I pulled that motor out. It wasn't the original motor, but it was hurt, so I put a small block 400 in it, and it was a pretty hefty 400. I raced it for a while. It was a 12-second car. And then a couple of the guys that I hung around with talked me into a big block, so I put a big block 427 in it, which was built pretty good. Raced that for a little bit, and then they talked me into putting some nitrous on it. Sprayed it with a small kit. It had 125 horse, ran through it, ran 1020 on a full steel car, weighs 3,800 pounds with me in it. And then realized that I don't want to cut the car up, I don't want to put a cage in the car, so I decided I'm going to put it back to a driver. I pulled the motor, the trans, all the electric fuel pumps, the exhaust, everything, pulled it out, sold it, picked up a GM Crate 454 LS6 motor, had a new trans, new headers, full exhaust all the way out to the back, new factory fuel lines, everything on it, and now I drive it everywhere. I put 3-point seat belts in it with the shoulder strap. I've got 3 boys. Drive them everywhere, take them to school, take them to the grocery store, all over the place. And I really enjoy driving the car now much more than when I had the race motor in.
I'm Jim Byrne. This is my 72 Buick GS convertible. I got this car 11 years ago. It was a 40th birthday present from my wife. We pulled the car out of a snowbank, and we brought it home and started a restoration. The car was restored over the first year and a half it was restored, and then it was restored a second time last year when I did engine, suspension, underside, every moving component I did last year. I actually had the whole front clip off, and I stored the front clip in the basement of the car or in the basement of my house as I restored the rest of the car, because my garage was pretty small at the time. The 72 Buick GS was, this is a GS 350, so it was a lower horsepower version of the GS. I mean, the GS 455 was a bigger motor car, a little faster, more desirable. But this car is, these GS, the 350s, they're bulletproof. You can just drive them. They're just drivable cars. Like suspension-wise, these cars drive great. Motor-wise, these cars drive great. It's fast. It's not, as fast as some of the bigger motored cars, but it's still a fast car. It can get out of its own way pretty well.
Thank you, Brian and Jim. And now the showstoppers, third place, this 1962 Chrysler 300. I believe it had a Hemi engine on the beach at Daytona for an economy test. This car went 156.67 miles an hour. This was a Bub Fribel Big Red Chrysler 300. I never paid much attention to this car back in the days. This is when I was a teenager, but sitting at this show, this is really a gorgeous looking car. Next up, runner-up, it is the Pontiac 1961 Pontiac Ventura. At Kedzie and Montrose at the Standard Station, the owner owned one of these cars in a dark blue, but he had the 8-bolt truck wheels, but these had some great looking wheels, the Pontiac Ventura. This is an excellent car. This was one of the early muscle cars. Now this car here may have the 389 with the 3 deuces. It's got 4 on the floor, but what a great looking car, the Pontiac Ventura. But the car I am rating as the showstopper for 2015 is the 1963 Chevy. It's only an Impala, but it came from the factory with the aluminum clip, meaning the front fenders and the hood were aluminum, the bumpers were aluminum. It came with a stroked 409, making the engine a 427. This is the showstopper for 2015. I should point out that I did own a 1963 Super Sport with a 327. For more information on muscle car and Corvette National, go to www.mcacn.com. mcacn.com. Don't forget TeamChicago.tv, WalkWithDan.com. But the 63 Chevy may be the most beautiful car of the 1960s. The lines on this car are absolutely perfect, and I was very lucky that I did own one of these 1963 Super Sports.